Hi guys, so I've just finished reading A Place Called Perfect by Helena Duggan. Now, this was a book that was recommended to me by loads of people. It's one I'd seen knocking around on Twitter, it's one I'd seen in bookshops, it's one that my wife had read and I added to my bookshelf and thought, I'll get around to reading that at some point. Last weekend I put a picture on Twitter with 4 books, and basically asked people's sort of feedback on which one they'd recommend that I read first. And quite resoundingly, A Place Called Perfect won that vote. Now, it's a book I started reading on Sunday, and it's a book I finished a few moments ago. I found that whilst I was into the book, whilst it was a book that I enjoyed to a certain degree, I did feel that it's a book that perhaps was a little slower and a little less engaging than some of the books I've read recently. I did find it an interesting story. I did have a degree of investment in the characters, but I just didn't find that I was hooked and turning the pages quite as much as I had been recently, and it got me thinking why. There was some really lovely descriptive vocabulary in this book. There was a fairly original concept. Essentially, the book focuses around a young girl, Violet, who has relocated to a town called Perfect. She turns up at this town, things are a little bit strange, everyone's acting a little bit weird, and there's just a few things that sort of don't quite add up. Everyone in the town drinks this special tea. There's 2 brothers who essentially sort of oversee the town and are seen as absolute heroes, and as the story unfolds, what we begin to find out is that this tea is essentially sort of tricking and numbing the people that live there into it's essentially affecting their eyesight, meaning they have to wear these glasses that then make them see the town in a very different way. It makes them see the place as perfect and gets them to conform to the way that the 2 brothers want them to live. At the same time, the brothers are removing their imaginations from the people in the town and essentially sort of turning them into sort of followers and almost robots and soulless people. Now, as I say, interesting story, some really nice parts of it, but I think what maybe made me engage a little bit less with this book is that I found that I was able to predict what was going to happen quite frequently in the book. I found some elements of it fairly predictable. I found that I just found that we didn't really go deep enough into the main character, Violet. There was she certainly appeared regularly throughout the book. She was very much the key character in the book. But I found that I sort of knew, you could feel all along that there was going to be a happy ending, and you could sort of I just wasn't on the edge of my seat quite as much. It was an interesting book. It was one that I do think children that I teach would enjoy reading it. I think it is a book that does have a sort of interesting undertone running through it, and I think there are some interesting messages that are delivered in the book as well. I think above all, the message that sort of I noticed from the book was the importance of people being themselves, having their own imaginations, being unique, and not sort of having a blanket approach to everyone having to be the same, think the same, act the same, have the same views and feelings. And I think seeing and reading about a town that had everybody in that situation perhaps got me thinking of countries in the world where people are living under those conditions, and I thought that was perhaps a sort of area of comparison. So I don't want it to come across too negative. It's a book I enjoyed. It's just a book I found perhaps a little bit of a longer and slightly more slightly trickier read in some senses, in that I wasn't absolutely desperate to sort of page turn and get to the end of it, but it was good. I was probably coming off the back of Boy Underwater, which I absolutely loved, and maybe this didn't quite have the same momentum as a reader, but A Place Called Perfect by Helena Duggan. I'm not sure what I'm going to read next. I've got a few options on the bookshelf. The Nothing Here Hotel is one that I'm thinking I might read. 1,000-Year-Old Boy is a book I've been having a little bit of a think about. So I'm not sure where I'll go next with it, but I'll certainly let you guys know. Thank you for watching. As always, please give it a thumbs up if you like it, and it'd be great if you hit subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. Book review of A Place Called Perfect. Cheers, have a good weekend.